Welcome back. I'm continuing the project of the chest that you saw me start 2 days ago, and we've had some interesting developments. Sorry, it's a little warm down here, so I'm putting my glasses on my head because then I can see a little better with, believe it or not, without the glasses on because it's steamy. Maybe I don't want to put those on my head, then the glasses get steamy. So we're back with the chest here. Let me pull this out so you can see it a little better and turn this, I hope, to the right way. That's the wrong way. I want you to see the front. Okay, so this is the chest you saw me clean the other day and seal up the metal. And I was having some interesting sticky problems with it. So I figured I've cleaned it with alcohol. It'll be fine. I'll come back down tomorrow. I'll sand it lightly, and then I'll either prime it or I will put a base coat on it. Well, I came back yesterday and it was still really goopy. So then I wiped it down with mineral spirits to see what would happen, and the top coat also dissolved with mineral spirits. And I'm like, what the heck is this? It dissolves with alcohol, it dissolves with mineral spirits. And then my squirrel brain is that, oh yeah, this isn't cedar, it's pine. And I don't know what the top coat was, but I know that whatever they did, they had to seal it up because there's knots and stuff on here. And everything I tried was just super, just to clean it down and dry it out. I was gonna put something over it to bond it anyway. It just got gummy. It didn't matter what I did. It's the first time I've ever experienced this. I don't know whether it's old shellac reacting with pine tars. I don't know whether it's old-fashioned varnish that just turned weird and gummy, but it softened with alcohol. It softened with Easy Clean, and it softened with mineral spirits. I tried all three. So I said, to hell with this. Sorry for the language. To hell with this. I just stripped it, which is, I have to tell you, one of my least favorite things in the world to do. Quite frankly, I don't like the chemicals. I don't like the time. I don't like the mess. I don't like the disposal issues. Because no, I don't use stuff like Citrusolve. I don't find Citrusolve is A, time efficient, and B, hey Rayma, nice to see you. I don't find Citrusolve is time efficient. I don't find it that it is as non-toxic as they like to say it is. And quite frankly, it takes forever to penetrate a lot of top coats. And since I didn't know what this is, I didn't want to take the chance that I spend a whole day trying to strip it with Citrusolve and it still didn't come off. So I used good old-fashioned stinky zip strip. It's hardcore paint remover. It's not as bad as navel jelly, but, and I, insert the belly button jokes all you want right here. I'm gonna read here. Hey sweetie, thank you, please do share. All I knew is I had to get this weird gooey coating off, and as you can see, while I'm touching it, I'm still going back and sanding a little because I really stripped it hard. Because I just couldn't figure out what the heck was on here. And that's very unusual for me not to be able to figure it out. So now we're just starting from scratch. And since Rima's on with me, I know she's sharing this, but for those who tune in, please share. Please come in, find a way to sign up for the notifications. They're on my Facebook page for Painted, which you're watching if you're seeing me now. Sorry about that. Somebody had a phone call. I should have turned off my phone for a second there. I'll get back to them later. I have a feeling I know who it is. Meanwhile, back to this. So it's been stripped, and it's been stripped within an inch of its life. And the stuff as it came off was yellowy, waxy, gooey, but it was kind of stringy and pulley, and it really was something I'd never seen before. So I'm glad I did the stripping. Which means then, though, my plan of action has to be different. Since I've gone down to partially raw wood, my first thought was, well, maybe I'll just go use an ebony stain on it And then my reaction was, oh crap, I don't know if I got all that weird gooiness off. So I'm going back to my plan of paint, but I actually have to prime it, and I'm going to do a shellac primer on this. Now I took bin, which is made by Zinsser. Let me go grab my can of bin. Yeah, this is my elegant can of bin, so you can't really see what it is. Obviously I've used it a lot, and that's how all my cans end up looking. But it's BIN. It's a shellac-based white pigmented primer by Zinsser. You can get it at Home Depot. You can get it at any paint store. Most of them carry it. And then I tinted it gray. The specs for bin say that you can put up to 2 ounces of universal colorant per gallon. I didn't have any universal colorant, so I just started, I figured it's in my studio. If it goes wrong yesterday, I could go out and buy what I needed today. But I actually put black faux cream color in here. It probably isn't the best thing because it's got acrylics in it. I'm mixing acrylic and shellac, but what the heck, I thought I'd give it a try. And it worked, and it actually is stable. I tested it this morning. I did my dipstick. Give me one moment, I'll go grab my dipstick. I'm back. So here's my dipstick. It is stable, it's not chipping off, it's perfect for what I need it to be, and it will work just fine for what I'm doing. Now, I still don't know whether I have any residue left over. I keep finding little rough spots in corners like down here. That may have some of the residue of whatever the heck was on there before. I can't really be sure. Sorry, something's on my screen and I can't see what I'm doing. So this is truly an experiment, and sometimes I do things in my studio and intentionally do them the challenging way, i.e. maybe the wrong way, so that I can prove that it either is really, really wrong or that there's a workaround. So I don't know whether I'm going to have adhesion issues with this stuff on this surface. Now, if you look here, I have taped off the inside edge. I'm not painting the inside of this. All I'm going to do is the exterior, because this interior is not sealed. It's a little rough. God only knows what they've had in there. But I've taped off the edges so that when I prime this and paint this, it doesn't seep over the edge and give me a messy edge inside. So I'm going to close this up. I'm going to raise my camera up and turn things around so you can see what I'm doing a little bit. So give me just a moment. Okay, I'm going to close it up. And I had to cut the tape so that it worked around the hinges so it didn't pull all the tape off. I'm going to turn this to the back. I've got my paintbrush, I've got my gloves. And I put my product somewhere. Hang on just a moment. Right here. All right, now I'm going to raise this up a little bit. I'm sure you're all enjoying looking at my nose. So here's the surface, and maybe I'll pull you a little closer, raise you up a little higher. And I'll come around it from the other side so you can see what I'm doing. I might be getting this camera thing down. I don't promise. So you can see my surface. I've sanded it, I've cleaned it, I've stripped it, I've re-wiped it, I've done all kinds of stuff to get this surface in as good condition as humanly possible. I'm gonna shake my primer up. Here, this is, again, Zinsser's Bin, which is a white pigmented shellac alcohol primer that I have tinted gray because, and why am I tinting it gray? It's because I don't want to put a fully white primer coat on when I'm going to take it to a dark color. I'm making it harder, so I'm actually shifting the color to make it easier to put my next layers of color over. If anybody's ever tried to paint black on white walls, or red on white walls, or dark blue on white walls, will know that you can always see the white through. So oftentimes a paint store will recommend that you use a gray primer. And that's what I'm doing. And yeah, I got a little pigment floating in here. I don't care. In the long run, it's not going to hurt anything. I know I can spray this. I'm actually not even worried if I get it on hardware. That's fine. I probably will get it on hardware last, but I want to make sure I get down in all the crevices. Shellac primer dries super, super fast because it's alcohol and it evaporates. The alcohol solvent and it evaporates very quickly. I know I've stepped out of camera, but I'm brushing one side and I'll come back into the camera focus in another. So what happens when you do this yourself, you don't have somebody on the camera wheeling you back and forth, going in and out for the best shot. And this is applying really well. I'm actually extremely happy that as much as I hate stripping stuff, that I did that. Now, the one thing to know about shellacs, being that they're alcohol solvent, first of all, they're great for sealing up stains and odors and tannins and that sort of thing, but they do dry very, very quickly. Now, normally, I won't start in the middle. Like this. I'm actually making it a little harder for myself, but I'm doing it so you can see what I'm doing. You see I've got this nice dark gray on here now. You can't really overwork shellac because it dries before it starts doing a lot of pulling back. But what will happen is if I'm brushing wet shellac on top of other drier shellac, it can re-wet it and pull it away that way. So I am working on my plans for what I'm going to be doing with this later. The phone call that cut me off a moment ago was from Sepleaf because I have ordered the gorgeous blue colored silver from Japan through Sep, and they're sending me a big packet of it so that I can use it on this. And no, the whole thing's not going to be covered. That's a little more metal than I want to go, but the pictures that will show what I had in mind are what I have posted with the notifications that I was going live. And see, this is leveling out and tightening up really, really nicely. And I'll have a nice deep tone gray color. Brema, I see you are asking me something, but you're gonna have to give me just a second to get closer to the camera. me just get the top done so that I can come down and do the back and I can see what you're saying. And I'm not putting this product on thick. First of all, shellac doesn't like to go on thick because it's a thin product, but I'm stretching it out. I want a thin, smooth, even coat. All right. And I got one little thin spot there. And I can go back in and carefully touch up where this is going to be because this is the base coat. So if I find I've got a spot that's too thin and it's already started to dry, I'm not worried. I'm going to come around so you all can see me and I can talk because I'm right here. Okay, dropping the camera. Give me just a sec so you can all look at the top of my head. All right. That should do it. There's the back, and then let me roll myself a little closer to see what Rima's asking me. Why am I brushing and not rolling? Because I don't like the dimple marks that rolling leaves behind. And thank you, I just saw that drip on the hinge. Nice thing is it was still wet, so I could wipe it up. I don't worry about stuff like that. It's alcohol solvent, I don't worry. Even if it was something else, I'd find a way to remove it. The reason I'm hand brushing the whole thing. I like the look of hand brushing. It's a personal thing. I find that when I use rollers, you get that roller dimpling thing happening. And I think that kind of spoils the look for me. And this dries too fast, so it's not like I can roll it on and then back brush it, which I know some people do, but I can do that with water-based paint. But even then, I don't like doing it. What kind of brush did I use? I used one of my favorites, a Dick Blick Mega Brush. This is a size 30, I think. Of course, I rubbed it off. You can use synthetic or natural brushes with shellac. It doesn't dissolve them. I read the cans always before the first time I've ever used something, so I make sure I know what brush is safe to use with it. But I use these. I find they're very furniture friendly, so that when I come back in here, and I know I'm brushing out of camera again. I'm a bad teacher. But when I brush, I like the fact that the edge is a little thinner, so I have a little tighter control. I like the compactness of the bristles, and I like the fine quality of the bristles versus those of a paintbrush. I know there's plenty of straight painters who would argue with me tooth and nail about this, but they're not here in my studio. I'm going to paint the back while you all are watching. Then I'm going to step aside and we're going to go over and talk about a little bit about gold leaf for a minute, since I've ordered a bunch of it to work on this project. And I think maybe what I'll do is back the camera up a little so that now you can see pretty much the whole piece. So you'll be looking at the back of my head, and I apologize for that, but that's the only way for me to paint something and still have it all in camera. I have taped, as you remember from the beginning of the video, I've taped off in here, so I'm not worrying about any weird seepage. And quite frankly, if there's weird seepage, I'll find a way to work around it. I try to be very good with my taping and my prep, but some days I'm not. So I have to find a way to make it work. But this weird issue with the cleaning of it was a great lesson for me. I've never had this happen before. As you all know, I'm actually left-handed, but I've learned to do basic painting left-handed and right-handed, but because it saves me time, and I actually learned to do that so that when I was on a ladder, I didn't have to move the ladder so much. I could go this way, and then I could go the other way. Who am I looking at? Oh, thank you, Deb. This is actually, I tinted shellac primer. earlier in the video, I explained that this thing was coated with stuff that I can't even begin to explain what was on here. I'm not even sure. It could have been any combination of anything, but no matter what I cleaned it with, it left it gooey. So I went and stripped it yesterday. And because this is pine, I actually have to seal it. Actually, if it was any wood, I'd have to seal it somehow, but specifically with pine, with the sap and the knots, I have to make sure that it's well and completely sealed so I don't have sap and tannin bleed from the knots, and so that whatever the heck was the base coat under here, because I have no idea, doesn't cause adhesion issues when I put set coat over this. I mentioned the last time I was working on this that set coat is my go-to paint, super high bonding. I love it. You can order it through Faux Effects. I know not everybody who watches me is FE friendly, so I like to share where I get things, because not everything I use is FE, but a lot of it is because I'm an instructor. If I sound muffled, I apologize. It's because my back is to you. But FE doesn't always play well with shellac, and it doesn't play well with clear shellac, surprisingly, but it seems to do just fine with the white tinted shellac, which is part of the reason I didn't use clear shellac just to seal this up. I used a tinted shellac. I had the white in here. I knew I was going to put set coat over it, so I tinted my shellac with black to get a deep gray color so that I'm not fighting the white to go to black, because God, that's a pain. It's usually at least one extra coat of paint, if not two. And you know, why make extra work for yourself? I do enough of that by accident. I don't need to do it on purpose. So I'm sure I've missed spots, but the only way to go and check some of the spots is to roll myself right in front of everybody, and that's kind of rude. And here's the thing, shellac dries, as I said before, it evaporates super, super fast. It's dry to the touch in 15 to 20 minutes, safe to recoat within the hour. I'm not going to be doing a second coat on here unless I've found that I have a lot of really badly missed spots or it's sucking in strangely. Just spray shellac all over my easel because I'm a genius. All right, I'm going to walk you over to my desk and take my gloves off. Shellac primer is not nice to get on your skin. It doesn't hurt, but you're putting a lot of alcohol on it. It's extremely drying. And I'm sorry about my thumb on everything as well, but it is what it is when you're working as a solo in a studio here. So we're going to talk a little bit about gold leaf, and it's going to take me a second to get the camera situated in another holder. This is my genius holder of sticking stuff in a empty paint can and sticking a selfie stick in there. If it works, don't fix it. So I'm here, and as I mentioned before, I'm ordering gold leaf because if you looked at the pictures that I showed you before of the pieces that I want to mimic that I had seen from a website called Rev and Couleur. Rima, I apologize if my French is so bad that you're cringing. I took 4 years of French in high school and I still can't speak French. God love me. 2 years of Spanish too, and the most I can do is order a margarita. So I'm going to pull up the pictures because, you know, I have my handy dandy iPad here too. I'm going to pull up those pictures so that you can see where I was going with this. Oh, sure I am. Now my passcode won't work. There we go. And photos. And let's see. Okay, here we go. this gorgeous piece is black, and then down here at the base, it's gold leaf, and then there's some very, very pale, somewhere between turquoise and mint green on it. So if you look up close here, you can see there's colors over the gold. And that's sort of where I'm going with this. The other picture that I love is this pink, pink, pink one. But I am not going to do... I have done so much pink over the last 8 years. I love my pink clients, but I have to do something that's not pink once in a while, even though there was a request for pink. So maybe the next thing I'll do a hot flaming magenta and gold, but not this one. But as I said, I had to order gold, and I order from two places. One called W&B. It's up in Wisconsin. They're a great group. They're local to me, so if I order stuff one day, I get it the next. And they're super sweet to deal with, and they have all the Gustav Manettis and all of the other gold leaves, but they also have their own brand, which sometimes ends up just being a little less expensive, which I appreciate more than anything else, because the gold that I ordered today is $37 for a book of 25. The price of gold varies on the gold leaf varies on the price of gold on the market. So you can't, like if I was bidding this for a client, I'd have to write the bid with the caution that there may be a slight fluctuation in the price because of the price of gold. And I've had that. I've bought gold when it was, about the gold leaf when it was like $6 less a book. So that's a big thing. You have to be aware of that. The price of gold leaf fluctuates with the price of gold on the market. The other thing I did, because I've kind of fallen in love with it, is I bought Japanese colored leaf for this. And that ocean that you saw me do that little piece of Vera Glamouzet with and the desk drawer with, I'm going to be using it on that because it's so pretty. And I ordered that from Sep Leaf. Sep is in New York. Their website for standard ordering is www.gildedplanet.com. I can generally call them up and order because I've been a standing client with them, but they don't love it when somebody just calls randomly. Of course, I order Japanese leaf. It doesn't come in packs of 20 or 25. It comes in either boxes of 500 sheets or or they cut it down and send you a box of 100. So I have 100 sheets coming, which sounds like a lot, but I guarantee you it goes very, very quickly. So I got this beautiful, let me find the colors. Let's see, the ocean color right there. I fell in love with it. I had a sample of it from when I went to Salon last May. By the way, Salon right now is in Amsterdam, and I'm so jealous. I was trying so hard to make that work for this year. Unfortunately, life got in the way, as it always does. I'm so traumatized. Seriously, I would have loved to have been in Amsterdam or just outside of Amsterdam for that. There's a lot of people there I admired. But back to the gold. The one thing you can do if you're not familiar with golds is you can get a hold of W&B, you can get a hold of Sep Leaf, and they have tear sheets that have actual gold on them. Now, this is pretty important, and as you can see, I have several of them in here with all kinds of different golds and stuff, and this, obviously that's silver. But different companies manufacturing different golds, their golds may be slightly different. So, and I every once in a while I get a client who's extremely specific about the color of her gold. So I have to bring the books to her and say, you can have this one, you can have this one, you can have this one. Choose between these three if that's where you want to go. And it really makes a big difference because a couple of my clients have been fellow artists, and if they wanted a red gold, that perfect hint was important. If I had gone with one of the others, they would not have been happy. It also gives me the chance to see what's available. They charge you for these sheets because that's real gold on there. That's not a screen print or anything. There's real sheets of gold. And I have found that as somebody using gold leaf, it's an investment worth making. I want to say they're $15 or $20 a sheet. You can order them all. Sep has them all, and then I thought I had one for W&B, but I don't seem to, and I just call them up. I trust them. Say, listen, I need, you know, a gold that's as close to the Minetti lemon leaf as you have. Send me that. And usually that's fine because it's usually me picking the color of the gold. So a lot of decisions get made for pieces based on availability of product, the crazy stuff that happens, like the weird stripped surfaces that I was just working on. And sometimes I have to change my thought midstream, and that's not unusual. That's the sign of a good finisher, whether it's walls, whether it's furniture, whether it's floors. You can run into something that you don't expect, like I did back here. I ran into a surface that I still don't know what it is, but I had to find a way to work around it. Otherwise, what was the point of continuing the project? Now, like I said, this is a piece I have had for forever, and it's sitting in my storage space, you know, my closet back here. But I had to find a way to solve the problem so that I could still make this a saleable piece and not have the finish fail. And that's where the decision to strip comes in. And sometimes that happens on a job. When I price jobs for clients, and I know this is not how everybody does it, but when I price jobs for clients, I make sure I price in a little pad to cover the eventualities of something like this happen, because that was a lot of extra work. That was, you know, 4 hours of stripping that thing yesterday. Because the stripper just didn't even want to work right on it. Everything was peculiar with it. So I kind of know that there's always the chance of having something strange happen, and I try to make that work with the bid that I have to put out. Generally, now, I want to cover something that doesn't always get discussed. I know a lot of people ask this on every furniture group that I've ever seen, every furniture class I've ever taught, is how do you make money painting furniture? Well, you don't do it this way. You don't just take one piece and have nothing else on the calendar. I'm working one piece right now because I've got other work going on, and I'm fitting this in. If you're trying to make furniture finishing your profession, you generally are working on multiple pieces at a time so that your time is constantly productive. Anybody who's ever gone out on a job site knows that it's not productive to run out on a job site for an hour to fix some, you know, it's a 30-minute drive one way, to spend 5 minutes doing something and then leave for 30 minutes. You have to be aware that you might have that. You better figure that out in your bid. And more than anything, you better have something else going on that day so that your whole day wasn't lost doing one 5-minute job. When I get called in on site for repairs, I figure out every little bit of it. I figure out if I have to pay parking. I figure out how much time it's going to take me to drive. I figure out my gas. I figure out my sitting around and waiting for something to dry because I have to do a second layer. I want to make sure that that all gets paid for if I have to do it on site. But if I'm doing something like that in my studio, if somebody's brought me a piece and it needs a little touch up or a little fix, I'm doing a little bit here and then I'm working on something else. And that's how I make it productive. Working and, you know, just doing one coat of something, walking away, and that's it for the day. That's not productive. That's not going to pay your bills. What you want to do is keep other things going. I'm showing you this right now because that's what I'm working on for us for the videos. When I turn this off, this studio will explode with a lot of other things that I have going on. So I just wanted to cover a little bit of business practice on top of the painting practice. I know that's not everybody's gig, but I know that there are people who are watching this in the long run who will be interested in knowing how you make it productive, because it's a question I get asked all the time. So I want to give you a little bit of the how we fixed the nightmare that showed up, how you tint shellac, how you order your gold, order and pick your gold, and then how you make this work. Yes, I covered a whole lot of random topics today. That's kind of how I work, because it's sort of the hamster wheel in my head. There's always a lot going on. But I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful week. I'm so happy my studio's back, and if you can see over here, I actually have a window that I can look out now because things got moved. And I am in my happy place right now because it's 20 degrees cooler in my studio than it is upstairs in my home. And that's kind of it for today. I got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to get off the camera and get back on the job. Have a great day. Bye.